Winter is officially here in Wisconsin. We had 13 inches of snow last night, which is just bonkers to think about. Because of that, our wood stove is going to be working overtime throughout the rest of the winter to make sure the house is nice and toasty. So in today's video, I wanted to share with you how we set up our wood stove, how we place the wood in there to get the fire going quickly, but also to make it a really long lasting fire. So we don't have to go in and add to it every hour or whatever, that it can burn for a while and keep the house warm. So I'm gonna go grab some wood and I'm gonna show you just that. All right, so we collected all the wood that we're gonna need to get this fire going. One thing to note too, if you don't already collect your newspaper and cardboard, just leftover stuff, I highly recommend you do that because those are excellent fire starters. But the first thing we're gonna do in this process is we're actually gonna put the big logs down first. So I got a couple big ones here that we're just gonna set kind of in the front and in the back like that. And I know this seems kind of counterintuitive maybe to some other fire starting techniques, but these big logs are going to just kind of soak up the fire from the little stuff that we're gonna put on top. And the little stuff is gonna be the thing that ignites really quickly. One other thing that I like to do in this process is I actually like to take up some crumpled newspaper and put it in between these two logs here. Just adds a little bit more something else to get the fire going. So I'm gonna put this here. And next I have these little sticks, medium-sized sticks, I guess you could say, medium-sized logs. And I'm gonna put these kind of draped on top like that. And one thing to note is I like to leave maybe about an inch or so space in between the logs, and this allows airflow to pass through. And so when the fire is going, it can have space to kind of spread throughout the other wood that's in the stove. So now we have our 2 layers. So we got our 2 layers there. And after this, we're gonna take a bunch of newspaper and cardboard and stack that on top. And so I'm gonna just put this newspaper there. It doesn't have to be pretty. It's gonna be burnt up really fast anyways. I'm gonna put my cardboard up on top there as well. And I'm gonna just put a couple more littler logs on there just to kind of weigh it down. And that should give it good kind of compression, but there's still, as you can see, there's still enough airflow that's happening in there that the fire should start pretty nicely. So with that, we're gonna start this fire, and if you do not have one of these, I cannot recommend these enough. They're just a small propane tank. I think they're like called campfire torches or something, or campsite torches. For the first month that we were using this wood stove, my wife and I, we would just use the little hand lighter. It was a horrible, horrible mistake. This thing is a lifesaver, so you should pick one up if you don't already have one. I'm gonna turn this on. And we're just gonna light different pieces here. All right, so now that we got that lit, I am going to close this. And I'm not gonna close it all the way. I'm just gonna leave a little kind of gap in there. And what this does, it kind of creates this vacuum. So it's sucking this air in, going up the spout there. And it helps just ignite everything so much quicker than if I were to close the door, it probably would just be extinguished. And if I were to leave it open, there's not really that kind of vacuum effect. So I'm gonna let this sit for about 10 minutes or so. We're gonna come back, check and see how it's doing and if it started. All right, so it's been about 15 minutes, and as you can probably hear, the fire is going really, really well. I'm probably gonna give it just a couple more minutes. I might add one more log just for longevity's sake. And then I'm gonna close this, and yeah, it should burn for quite a few hours by itself and won't need any tendering. There's a couple things too to think about too when you're using any sort of wood stove. It's gonna be the type of wood you're using. If you are using any sort of fire starters, whether it be like newspaper or cardboard, I know some people use like egg cartons, things like that. That's gonna make a difference too in getting it going fast. And then also too, just the general dampness of the wood, whether it's wet or not. If it's a wet piece of, well, if it's soaking wet, obviously it's not gonna light, but even if it's been drying for only a few weeks or a few months, sometimes even, the wood might not be quite dry enough yet. So that's something to consider when you are trying to start your fire. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like. And if you have any questions or any other suggestions or anything, leave a comment below. And yeah, thank you again for watching. And if you enjoy anything homestead related, we have a ton of videos on the channel that you can check out. My name is Austin, but until next time, peace.